This episode of the SloopCast is brought to you by the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company is an Ohio-based company where they usually say, our seasoning will take your barbecue from good to great. The great seasonings such as the Coffee and Q, smoked S&P Bud, and the Mad Hatter. You can't go wrong with any seasonings over at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. That is the MadCanadianBBQ.com. Be sure to use the promo code at checkout, 1year20. That is one spelled out, ONEYEAR20 at checkout for 20% off your entire order for the month of October. Be sure to also check out the Mad Canadian in Cary, Ohio this Friday next to the Marathon gas station, 11 to 3. Again, this Friday, 11 to 3, or Sunday in Upper Sandusky, Ohio, in front of the Wyandotte County Historical Museum from noon to 4. Again, on Sunday, 12 to 4. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where they have your butt covered.
YouTube! Hi, YouTube. What you drinking, Kyle?
Still finishing up my Oktoberfest.
I'm also drinking an Oktoberfest. That's a Lawn Raker by Land Grant.
Nice.
Hint, hint, Land Grant.
Hint, hint, indeed.
See that little thing right there? Your logo could be right there. We're not super chatty today. Maybe we should just rejoin the audio listeners.
Super focused today.
Focused. Lots to cover. All right. We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the SloopCast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing all right, Jared. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. Can I show you a little something? I'm doing a little something, and I want to show you.
All right.
This is for the YouTube listeners. So this is a 7071 brewery shirt. It's not obviously a real brewery, but yellow pants. And I don't know how well it's coming through over my cheap webcam, but this is very purple, and this is very yellow, because Braun did it again.
Yes, LeBron with his fourth.
Yes.
With his fourth.
Just a kid from Akron.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do? I know there's a lot of people. Michael Jordan's not playing right now. LeBron is. Instead, just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? By the way, I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing that anyone even entered the conversation with Michael Jordan.
Yep.
The fact that anyone even entered that conversation is amazing. That's it. And he's an Ohio kid. I say that we're the same age. But yeah, he's yeah, it's just shut up and enjoy LeBron James while we still have him. Mm-hmm. That's all.
Yep. He's still going strong after 17 years. 17 seasons.
Nuts.
Yes.
Nuts. But anyway, this is not a basketball podcast.
You know what else is nuts? Nick Saban and Alabama's athletic director testing positive.
Yeah.
Testing positive. That's the SEC's been hit hard this past week.
Yeah.
So like Vanderbilt's game was canceled. Now Florida's game. And then just moments ago, right before we started recording here on Wednesday, news come out about Saban and Alabama's athletic director coming out testing positive.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about something like this potentially happening just on the Monday episode. You know, people are worried about, well, will the Pac-12 play enough games? Will the Big Ten play enough games? I think we need to just acknowledge that just because they don't have as many games scheduled, that does not mean that they won't play as many games. And with all of the rapid testing and everything else that the Big Ten has in place, that should hopefully, fingers crossed, should hopefully help isolate someone who has it, and this would prevent a mass breakout.
Yep. So
hopefully.
So the question here for Alabama is, well, what's going to happen here? As it's already known that Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
Make sure I said it right. Steve Sarkisian is going to take over while Nick Saban is staying home. So that's going to be the question: is how long is he going to have to stay home? I imagine that he wouldn't be there for the Alabama-Georgia game. So yeah, how much of that?
It's the SEC. Who knows?
How much of that is going to affect this weekend's game with Nick Saban not on the sideline?
Yeah, I have two thoughts on that, and they run contrary to each other. So I'm going to say something and then disagree with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me thinks that Alabama is such a well-oiled machine that you can take Saban out of the equation for a couple weeks and that machine keeps on rolling. And that's a credit to Nick Saban. That's not that's not, well, he's not important or it's all talent. He doesn't matter. That's not me saying that. I'm saying he does such a good job culture building, bringing in good assistant coaches, running a tight ship over there, that he can temporarily move out of the situation, and it should keep rolling without him.
Yeah. The one thing I kept seeing before we started recording was that Saban was able to monitor practice via a Zoom
It's not the same
meeting, and that he just pretty much just watched, and then if anything came up or anything that he thought needed attention, he would just call someone and be like, "Hey, that needs fixed," or "Hey, that's not right."
Right. And so, and then
it goes back to what you were saying, a well-oiled machine, but he's kind of there just fine-tuning it. It's like, "Hey, that needs corrected, that needs adjusted."
Yeah, but it's not the same. So now to disagree with myself, he's such a taskmaster that I wonder what happens when all of a sudden the boss isn't there to watch over everyone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Does Alabama relax just that little bit because Saban isn't standing right there? Because he burns through assistants real quick, and it's because of how much he demands of them. Does everyone just maybe start running at 85% all of a sudden because the boss isn't in the office? We'll never know for sure, and we'll make up whatever narrative fits the result of the Alabama-Georgia game. Either Bama's so great that, or you take Saban out and see what, you know what I mean? We'll craft a narrative after the Georgia game to exactly how this affects Alabama.
Yep. All right. Enough Alabama. Let's talk about the Ohio State football team here.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Ohio State has a nickname. They're the Buckeyes, not just the football team.
But they're still the Ohio State football team.
Yeah.
It's not an inaccurate statement. All right. Lots of media availability this week, sort of giving us some insight from within camp. And these are all quotes or semi-quotes. What's the term I'm looking for, Kyle, when a quote's not quite a quote? I'm blanking on what that word is. Paraphrase. I got there. Kyle, thanks for the help.
Anytime, buddy.
But one thing, and I'm gonna give one piece. This is just one piece. Lots of great stuff on the Scoop Insider board this week. Some from Alex Gleitman, some from Tony Gerdeman, and then we got a bunch of stuff from Nevada Buck this week as well. I'm gonna give you just one thing though, and I'm going to put it in the form of a question. maybe you saw this and maybe you didn't, Kyle, because I know you've been work traveling a lot. So maybe you didn't see this. Apparently, allegedly, they did 40 times at Ohio State. Okay? Now,
allegedly. Okay.
Well, 40 times done at the university by the coaches are always a little bit funny. Okay. But they did 40s. Who is the fastest player on the Ohio State Buckeyes? Don't think too much, because I don't want too much dead air on the podcast.
Is it a freshman?
No.
It is not a freshman. Is it a wide receiver?
No.
Ooh. DB?
No.
Wow. Who else would it be? Not a running back?
Nope.
Okay, not a running back.
Keep asking questions.
Not a safety?
Not a safety.
Wait a minute.
No dead air, Kyle. Keep rolling.
Is it Drew Chrisman?
It's not. No, it's not Drew Chrisman. This is a 40 time, not who can flip 40 bottles the quickest. That's not the 40
Not
time
Justin
I'm talking.
Fields?
Justin Fields ran
Wow.
a 4.3 flat, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
I was it hand timed? Was it electronically timed? Who was pushing the stop and who was pushing the start? I don't know.
My thumb wasn't quite on the start button right away.
Oh, I missed it. Yeah,
I thought the finish line was closer.
Yeah. Like I said, lots of great stuff on the insider board this week. I don't want to get in trouble with the bosses, so I'm not going to give all of it away. But that's the type of stuff you can, in fact, get on the insider board over at thebuckeyescoop.com. All right, Kyle. Now let's talk about the public stuff. Let's talk a little bit. We had some press availability this week from the safeties, not the quarterbacks, but Justin Fields. And then, of course, their coaches. So we have, let's hold off the quarterbacks. That's what everyone wants to hear. Let's put them on stage last. Let's start with the safeties, and let's start with Coach Barnes.
All right, yeah. So just taking some bullet points here. Let's see. First one here. Barnes talks about Hooker. That would be Marcus Hooker.
Yeah.
I was about to say his brother's name here.
Hopefully he can put that behind him this season. It's kind of like no one ever talks about anymore. How Michael Thomas is Keyshawn Johnson's nephew. That was always like, oh, that's Michael Thomas. Did you know he's Keyshawn Johnson's nephew? They don't say it anymore. He's just his own dude now. So let's hope Marcus Hooker can do the same.
Well, I don't want to talk about too much with Michael Thomas. There's some stuff going on there with him. But
listen. Let me tell you something about Michael Thomas. This isn't the first time, and I can't go into detail because I can't confirm any of this. I'm just going to tell you it's not the first time he's punched a player in practice. It may have happened once or twice at Ohio State. That's all I'm saying. Maybe, allegedly, potentially, could be.
I think we found the name of this episode. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
All right. Hooker, Barnes says Hooker is a true center fielder. Rangy, instinctive, freakish ball skills. He tracks the ball well and does well in the run game as well. Goes on to say Proctor can play closer to the box and play man-to-man coverage. They both can do both.
Yeah. One thing that I don't know if Kyle pulled this quote or not, but one thing that they emphasize that they didn't do last year, that they haven't done at Ohio State in a while, and that they aren't going to do this year, Ohio State is not a split safety team. Meaning that the idea of this guy's the strong safety and this guy's the free safety has much less meaning at Ohio State than it does in a bunch of other defenses. It's basically 2 safeties.
Yep, exactly. Another thing here, Barnes talks about the return game. Obviously, COVID has changed their mindsets on the depth charts and having more guys who can play. Mentions Wilson, McCall, Smith, and Jigba, Martinez, Xavier Johnson, and Chris Olave, to name a few who are involved in the return game.
That's a lot of names. So
there's a lot of names. And he goes on and adds one more to that list down the bottom. He actually said that Mookie Cooper could also be a guy too.
Kyle, are you saving that stuff for Kyle's Corner? Speaking of Mookie Cooper and a couple of the other guys you mentioned?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's in the show notes. It's technically above where we're at right now, but if you're saving it for Kyle's Corner, I don't want to kill your buzz.
Sure, we can do that.
Okay. I'm just not trying to kill your buzz, that's all.
I mean, we've mentioned a number of times in the past, just Ohio State just hasn't really had a good return team in quite a while.
No, it feels like a lot of the good returners over the past, let's say the Meyer Day era, have also come with, let's say, excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Marshall comes to mind right away.
Yep.
But when was the last time Ohio State had a return touchdown? I feel like it's been a long, long time.
Oh, we did this before. I would have to look it up when the last time.
If you don't find it by the end of this sentence, let it go.
Last time Ohio State returned a touchdown was November 2014 by
14. I'm gonna say Jalen Marshall.
Jalen Marshall.
Wasn't that his 3 touchdown game?
That
didn't he return a touchdown, throw a touchdown, and run a touchdown that game or something crazy like that?
That was the game.
Yeah,
I believe that was that game.
The wide receiver did everything but catch a touchdown, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know what? No, it was a reception touchdown, but it was one of those passes where they do that. Mm-hmm. So it was technically a reception touchdown. For anyone just audio listening, that's just that little tiny shovel. I mean, it's not even a shovel pass. It's like a spade pass. It's like a sand bucket pass. Just like, here you go.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio State just, I don't want to say struggling, just not able to get a good returner who's able to be like a Ted Ginn, essentially. We haven't had a Ted Ginn since Ted Ginn.
Yeah. I mean, we've had Ted Ginns since Ted Ginn, but maybe, I mean, if we're talking pure return standpoint, then potentially you're right. Like I said, Jalen Marshall is very good at it. He just had his downsides as well.
Yes. All right, let's move on here. Talking more about the cornerbacks here. He said a number of the backs have been making noise. The freshmen have done well. Chavos, before he got hurt, was doing really well.
No H in there, just Chavos.
Yes.
There you go.
Ryan Watts has been banged up too. Tyreek Johnson has played a bunch of snaps opposite of Sean Wade. Cameron Brown and Seven Banks are elite. It's a really good group.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. I think it was 2 episodes ago, where you're going to see Sean Wade as your number 1 guy. That's obvious. We all know that. And that we're seeing a little bit of separation with Seven Banks. Potential, but they're going to split carries. They're going to split snaps regardless. But we might see a little more Seven Banks than Cameron Brown, but also expect to see Tyreek Johnson on the field. I think that there's been some step up in the cornerback room, because I know depth there was definitely a concern. And we're seeing the same thing, by the way, out of the safety room. Safety was definitely a big concern coming into the year, But as camp has gone on and as we've gotten some additional leaks, again, Buckeye Scoop message board, as we've seen some additional leaks come out, it sounds like not only are Hooker and Proctor doing good, but that there are other guys on the team who maybe weren't expected to be the starters, who might be pushing for maybe not starting over Proctor, but are earning snaps at the very least. So safety, both from a starting and depth standpoint, definitely an issue, as well as corner, definitely an issue more on the depth standpoint. But based on what we're hearing out of camp, I think we're going to be okay in that realm.
All right. Moving on to the opposite side, the receivers. Barnes talks about the freshman receivers all bringing something to the table on special teams. Mentioned about Cooper being able to help as a returner, but he's also a physical guy as well. Scott plays like a linebacker, and he says, and I mean that in a good way, he can cover kicks. Fleming can really run and be a coverage guy or gunner. And Jackson Smith Jigba, that's always a fun one to say, is just so smooth and has unbelievable ball skills.
Yeah, again, we talked about the wide receivers, the freshman wide receivers, in depth on, I believe it was 2 episodes ago. Yeah, I expect to see a 2 deep, and that's 3 wide receivers and a 2 deep, have 3 freshmen in it.
Yeah, and I think that's what Barnes says, that he has like to have 6 deep on the wide receivers.
I think it's Day that says that a little bit later.
Right. Yeah, that's coming up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of jumping ahead here, but since we're talking about coverage here, Drew Chrisman was on too, and he talked about great gunners, those folks who can just go down and just sprint to wherever Chrisman's going to punt the ball to. He said that he's had some great gunners in the past. Denzel Ward was great. Terry McLaurin came, and he's probably the best. He said he saved me a lot of times. It's a role that guys take a lot of pride in. Olave will still be doing it, and Josh Proctor is doing it some as well.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's a way to really just being able to get around somebody and just full speed as fast as you can to where the ball is going to go.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not a thing that we talk about a lot, especially as fans. But when he said, I had some great gunners in the past, and I was immediately just like Terry McLaurin. Mm-hmm. That's how good he was at it, where I was just immediately Terry McLaurin right at the top of my head.
Scary Terry.
I don't care for that nickname.
All right. Let's see. Hooker. I got a quote here that kind of stuck out to me. He said, "It's been a blast having Combs back in the room, even though they do get yelled at a bit." Nah. Also says Combs and Barnes have great minds. They're always trying to get more out of the players, and they always manage to get more out of them.
Yeah, it's.
I can just see Combs just running down and back the sidelines, just yelling at players.
He might be in the booth this year. He's a D coordinator now. He might be in the booth this year.
But I really want to see him running down the sideline.
So do I.
Everybody does.
So do I. But we'll see. That's not. I said might. That's all.
Let's see. Just a couple more here. Proctor says that he's been watching the Clemson game quite a bit. He said it's a motivator. He wasn't as focused on the little details last year.
He had a rough game against Clemson. I think that's one of the reasons why we were so worried about the safeties this year, was because Proctor is going to be the guy this year, and he struggled pretty badly against Clemson. But that was last season, and this is this season, and players improve. These are young guys. These are guys in their late teens and early 20s. Mm-hmm. They are constantly developing and improving and hopefully getting better.
Yep. All right, last one here from our favorite punter, Drew Chrisman, on bottle flipping.
Yes.
He still says, I still got it. Every now and then somebody on the team will challenge him and he has to assert his dominance.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
We all need a thing.
Yes. All right, that's it for the defensive side there.
Offense, let's go.
Yep, let's do a quick offense here, and then we will do an ad read. Let's see. Coach Day asked about seeing so much bad defense this season, and have they done anything to make sure that doesn't happen to them? Day answers that there is an awareness of others' mistakes, allows them to show clips and players to take it seriously. So that is definitely a positive for, I guess, one of the things to start later is to see a lot of the defensive struggles that we've all been seeing from every conference.
Yeah, it's like everyone's right, the Big 12 this year.
Mm-hmm. Coach Day also talks about, does the defensive game plan change because of what he's seen from other defenses struggling? He answers no. We do what we do, and we feel strong about our defense. We feel strong about our scheme. Goes on about, you just make sure the players are fast and prepared, and there's depth that allows rotations. Offensively, they have to do well also and not put the defense on a short field.
I really hope that's not the bare minimum expectation from the offense this year, because I'm expecting touchdowns on every single drive. Or I will go on Twitter and I will be very mean and very passive aggressive and very salty.
Mm. All right. About Jordan Fuller, saying Fuller was the most unsung hero last year.
Facts.
He didn't get as much recognition as he deserved. That's a big void that needs filled. Proctor and Hooker and Shaw and Ransom have gotten better and shown flashes. It says, quote, overall pleased with what we've seen. They've all shown good things, and he declined to name a leader. He also goes on, says, quote, it's whoever we think deserves an opportunity to play.
Now, that being said, when presented with who to put forward to the press, they put forward Hooker and Proctor. So, he can decline to, and you might just say, well, they're the older guys and you trust them more with the media, which might be the case. But when you had to pick two to meet with the press, it was Hooker and Proctor.
Yep. All right. The shiny freshman.
Yeah.
It talks about the 4 shiny freshman receivers. Says he's pleased with how they run routes and run plays. The thing that has hurt them is not being able to be in pads until just recently. They won't really know how good they can be until they've been getting hit in games. Show that they care every day. They show that they want to take care of the football, and they have all made big plays.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to run routes in shorts. Mm-hmm. And it's another thing when you're anticipating a hit coming. Because they hit harder now. This isn't high school anymore. They hit harder now. And also, you're expected to block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the number one thing from Urban Meyer, was that you're on the field if you can block first.
Yeah.
And then run routes and catching second.
To a lot of fans' dismay at times.
Yes.
But yeah, that was absolutely how Urban ran things.
But yeah, being able to really be in pads and being able to see what kind of routes you can run when you're up on press man-to-man coverage, trying to do your moves to be able to do your routes and all that is completely different than just running routes and playing pitch and catch.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. Talks about Justin Fields. Says Fields has been showing the freshmen how to work and what it looks like. He says he's a great role model. That's how it's always been since day ride, beginning with JTB.
Yep. I mean, and that's what it is. You have two incredibly talented quarterbacks. One of them in the Justin Fields role in CJ Stroud. Another one in more of a, I was going to say, I almost said Joe Burrow, just say like traditional drop back guy. But Burrow could run a lot too. But yeah. Jack Miller's more of your tradition. Probably Dwayne Haskins might be a better, because I think Dwayne Haskins was the passiest of quarterbacks again in the Meyer Day era. So, but again, you have CJ Stroud, who is sort of a do-it-aller like Justin Fields, and then you have Jack Miller, who's more of a traditional drop-back passer.
Yep. One of the concerns we brought about last episode, the depth at defensive tackle. Day addressed that set, and he says it is the biggest concern right now. Hopefully they can get a few guys back, but there are definitely things they can do.
Yeah. Defensive tackle, we're not going to see a lot of production out of the defensive tackle this year. We might see a situation like we saw when Nick Bosa was a freshman, where they incorporate some sort of Rushman package.
The Rushman package. Yes.
Where they might bring some defensive ends in to play defensive tackles in obvious passing situations.
Probably like under the 3 technique.
Yeah, in the 3 technique, like on 3rd and longs and stuff like that, obvious passing situations. Because it's the talent, especially the depth and the defensive tackles, is someone that Ohio State loves to rotate. Yep. That we might see, probably, I think Tyreek Smith, bigger body guy, might be someone who plays some 3-tech defensive tackle in obvious passing situations. Again, we're not going to see a ton of production out of defensive tackles this year. The entire Haskell Garrett situation has absolutely hurt Ohio State, and we're happy he's okay.
Yeah,
that's the first and foremost. We're happy that he is as okay as he is. But that hurt Ohio State in a place where they were already a little bit shallow depth-wise. Mm-hmm. The defensive tackle has definitely overtaken the safety. We're starting to feel pretty good about the safeties, but now we're starting to feel a little bit iffy about the defensive tackles. Yep. As camp goes on.
Yeah. Definitely be paying a closer attention to that.
That being said, I don't think that they're talent deficient. I think that the defensive tackles can go in there and maintain. I just don't think it's going to be a situation where, like I said, you get like a ton of big plays in production out of defensive tackles.
Making their presence known.
Or maybe not making their presence known. Just not messing up. Might be what we want out of defensive tackles this year, just sort of holding their own.
All right, last thing here, going on the opposite side, the slobs, talks about Nicholas Petit-Frere and Paris Johnson will both play. Goes on to say NPF has taken most of the reps with the ones at right tackle. They will figure out who's going to play in the game at all positions and then figure out the rep counts from there. Petit-Frere is going to have a heck of a year.
As much as I want to see Paris Johnson on the field, I don't know that I like hearing this. I think I'd rather hear
consistency. I want 5 guys named. That's your 5 guys.
Yeah, I think I'd rather hear that NPF is so great that we never want to take him off the field ever. I think that's more, to me, your tackles are like your quarterbacks.
Yep.
I don't want you screwing around with them. Mm-hmm. I want my number 1 left tackle, my number 1 right tackle, and those guys are there unless it's a 35-point blowout.
Yep.
So that makes me nervous. That makes me, I don't like that. I get that he's trying, Ryan Day is trying to say Paris Johnson is great. I think that is what he is trying to say. And if that's what he's saying, great, we believe you. But I don't want to hear that they might be sharing reps at right tackle. That's not what I want to hear at all. All right, Kyle. Now, what I do want to hear is about some Mad Canadian Spices. Mad Canadian Spices. I just grabbed one of the ones on my desk. This is the Cajun. That's the Cajun right there. Focus. Camera focus. Nope, not going to focus. We all know what Cajun is. This is the Mad Canadians version of it. Let's see. It's cumin, it's coriander, Spanish paprika, kosher salt, black pepper, and guess what, Kyle? Additional spices. Where were you on that one? You're supposed to hit me up with that additional spices. Kyle? Let's see. We got the Mad Hatter. I love the Mad Hatter. I was actually just thinking about this. I haven't mentioned this one in a while about the Mad Hatter. A while back, I was told by the Mad Canadian himself that if you're ever doing like a spicy Bloody Mary, that's your Mad Hatter right there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe if you're doing a spicy margarita as well, there's lime in here, but I don't know if spicy margarita is a thing. I don't think that's a thing. But a spicy Virgin Mary, sure. Absolutely. All of this, so much more. Let's do it. The Brits blend, the coffee and Q, the snore and heat, the Cajun, the smoke, the savory, the two border. I feel like we haven't talked about the two border in a while. It's maple. That's pretty great. And there's some pepper in there, so it's like a spicy sweet mix right there in the bottle. It's great on eggs. I love it in my eggs. I love it on my sausage, on my bacon. That's some great stuff right there. The S&P Bud, I'm waiting on my order. Mad Canadian, where's my new S&P Bud? I'm out. I'm just kidding. I just bought it. I want it now. The Discord and the Four Horsemen, those are your super spicy blends. All of this and a bunch of other ones I haven't even mentioned yet, including the Ope, which is a smoked ranch. I feel like we haven't mentioned the Ope in a while. It's smoked ranch. It's great. How can you go wrong? All of this and more can be found at madcanadianbbq.com. Use promo code ONEYEAR20. That's ONEYEAR20 at checkout to get 20% off your entire order. That promo code's good through all of October. If you are somehow, some reason listening to this after October, you can still use SloopCast 10 at checkout to get 10% off your entire order. And then if you are in Cary, Ohio on this Saturday, he will be at the Marathon gas station from 11 to 3 on Friday. And on Sunday, he's venturing out of Cary, Ohio and going all the way to Upper Sandusky. That's on Sunday. And you can find him at the Wyandotte County Historical Museum from noon to 4. All of that and more can be found at madcanadianbbq.com, where he has your butts covered.
Before we get into the next part here, Jared, just an update here, some recruiting update.
Okay.
Player that we were keeping an eye out for has dropped their top 3 just now. Tumise Adelier.
Okay.
He comes out with his top 3 of Alabama, Florida, and Texas A&M.
Yeah, he decommitted from Ohio State, and like we said, the decommit recommit is they decommit, and then they always come out and say, "Oh, but I'm still highly considering that," and it happens. The decommit recommit, it does happen. Just never hold out much hope for it.
Mm-hmm. All right, share that bit of news before we go into the rest of our episode.
Yeah, I wasn't holding out any hope for Adelier anyway. It's fine.
Yeah. All right. Next up here, Big Ten schedule update.
Yeah.
What do we got here, Jared?
The Big Ten released a full schedule for October 24th. Now, we already know who's playing who. That we knew already. But we have TV and kickoff times. And you can find all that. We're not going to read all that to you. But what we do have is a slate of Friday games that have been announced. And it's very Big Ten West heavy. If you're in the Big Ten West, you're getting some Friday games. Illinois, on October 23rd, we have Illinois at Wisconsin. That might be one of our early, that might be a slew pick.
Jared.
Yeah.
This means next Friday's episode, we get to talk about Buckeye football games.
Yeah.
One more week.
We're almost there. All right. October 30th. Again, these are all Friday games I'm mentioning. Minnesota's going to Maryland. On the 13th, Iowa's going to Minnesota. On November 20th, Purdue's going to Minnesota. And on the 27th, Nebraska is going to Iowa.
Very Minnesota
heavy. Friday nights are now golden. It's a golden Friday night.
Be sure to bring your oars.
Yeah. Maryland is the only Big Ten East team mentioned.
As long as it's not Ohio State.
Death to divisions.
Yes. All right.
Let's do some slew picks. Oh, nope.
Let's go back to the Saturday games real quick. Well, actually, we'll cover them next week. We'll cover them next week.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Let's talk about what you were just about to say here. The slew picks.
Yes. Let's do that.
One note here is that on our list was the Florida LSU game, but obviously with that being canceled, we had to take that out and replace it with
Boston College, Virginia Tech was the one we added.
Kind of a big drop there.
Go Jeff Hafley.
Well, I mean, is it really? I mean, you have Boston. Hold on. I'm going somewhere with this. You got Boston College and Virginia Tech, one ranked team. You got Florida and LSU, one ranked team.
Yeah. Florida, at least before last week, we considered a playoff team, and I don't think we consider Virginia Tech a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
And Florida could still somehow potentially backdoor. It's very chaotic this year. I don't think one loss is... If they win the SEC with this one loss, Florida's not out of the playoffs, is all I'm saying.
Yep.
Virginia Tech, I'm just not holding out any hope whatsoever that they're making the playoffs. So, to me, that's what makes it a much bigger game. It has actual national implications. And the best thing Virginia Tech could possibly hope for is losing to Clemson in the ACC championship game. That's the peak of their season.
All right. Excuse me. All right, let's go ahead and cover our sloop picks here. Yeah. First up here, Pittsburgh heading on over to Miami.
Oh, it's almost like the Big East is still a thing.
Oh, how cute. Miami is a 10.5-point favorite. And what is it up? I think every week, Jared. Yeah. And I'm looking at you because you're doing the pick. You've picked the games.
You can take a turn if you want to.
Okay, maybe I will. Okay. Because I'm tired of seeing Pittsburgh on here. I'm always going to pick against them here. I'm going with Miami.
To be fair, they're here because of Miami. This game is here because of Miami, not Pittsburgh. Sorry, Noah. If you're listening, I'm sorry. But this isn't here. My little brother goes to Pitt. This isn't here because of Miami or because of Pittsburgh, I promise. This is here because of Miami.
Okay.
All right.
I'm still picking Miami.
Yeah. Me too. 10.5 points, not quite enough to scare me off. Pittsburgh loses to Boston College last week, albeit by 1 point in overtime. NC State, they lost, albeit by 1 point. So Pittsburgh 1-2, but they are also, or excuse me, no, what the heck is going on? Have they actually played 5 games already? Is that right? Wow. ACC getting things done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they started early. They started, not early. They started on time.
Yes.
All right. All right. So you picked Miami.
I'm picking
then.
Miami. In the two losses that Pitt has, they were both by 1 point. That kind of ekes me towards Pitt. But I'm going to go with Miami. Miami, I'm not surprised what happened last week. Clemson's a far more talented team. What we find out this week is what kind of culture do they have at Miami? Mm-hmm. What happens after you get punched in the face?
Yep, exactly. All right, next game here. Nope, we're not doing ranks. Cincinnati is taking on Tulsa. Your Fighting Fickles is a 4.5 point favorite. I don't really know much about this Tulsa team. I just know that Cincinnati has a pretty good defense.
Cincinnati has a pretty good defense. But let me point this out. We've only seen Tulsa twice this year, so that's not helpful.
Yep.
They took Oklahoma State, who has since then been looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So they took Oklahoma State down to the wire in a 16-7 game. Once again, proving that teams outside of the Big 12 can play defense, holding Oklahoma State to only 16 points. And then they beat UCF last week. And UCF is a really good American Conference team.
That's true.
Cincinnati, on the other hand, has played good games. They beat the crap out of Austin Peay, and Austin Peay is a FCS school. Then they had a convincing win against Army and a convincing win against USF. Tulsa has just looked really good, and this is one of those situations where I'm just going to pick the underdog.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with Tulsa. I don't know if Tulsa wins or not, but I'm like 60-40 that Cincinnati will win this game. And that's not enough to persuade me away from a 5-point cover.
Gotcha. All right. Our first disagreement. Next up here, Louisville taking on Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 16.5 point favorite. What do you got here, Jared?
You got Louisville, you got Notre Dame. What I'm sort of banking on here is the fact that Louisville has given up a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I really don't know how good Notre Dame is. I still kind of point to them struggling against Duke. They had a really good game against USF. And then I really wanted them to beat the doors off of Florida State, which they did do eventually. If you look at the final score, it's 42-26. It definitely looks like that they did, but they didn't really. I'm going to go Notre Dame here, but I honestly don't feel great about it. I'm banking mostly on Louisville's defense being bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going with Notre Dame just mainly because of like what you just said, where Louisville's defense just looks bad.
Yeah.
They just look bad. Next game here, Jared. Texas A&M taking on Mississippi State. A&M is a 6.5 point favorite. I don't know why, to me, after what I've seen from Texas A&M last week, when they surprised us with how they beat Florida.
Yeah.
But then the first week they looked bad, but they did beat Vanderbilt.
Yeah. A struggle game against Vanderbilt for sure.
Mm-hmm, they got their butts handed to them against Alabama.
Yeah.
And then you look at Mississippi State here, where they beat LSU the first week.
Which, as the weeks go, looks less and less impressive.
Yep. They lost to Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Kentucky, where they only scored 2 points.
Yeah, and it's
Give me
that.
the Aggies.
Yeah.
Give me the Aggies.
what really pushes me to absolutely 100% go with the Aggies here is Mississippi State scoring 2 points against Kentucky.
Yes.
Because I could have potentially spun this as like a shootout in my head. And I still think it's possible that we see some sort of Big 12-esque shootout in this game.
Texas A&M going back to its roots.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so I still am kind of nervous that that's what happens here. I'll tell you what, the over-under is at 54, and I would be going over if I were a betting man, and you see how bad my sloop picks are. I'm not.
So that means do the under.
Probably. But I'm going Texas A&M here, especially with it being underneath 7 points.
Yeah. All right. Next up here, another common thing I keep seeing. North Carolina.
Listen, we don't have a lot of options right now.
North Carolina taking on Florida State. The Tar Heels are a 12.5 point favorite. I think it's my pick here. I think it's my pick. This one I really did struggle around. I mean, at first you're like, oh, Florida State, they're a bad team, but they did hang around with Notre Dame for a little while there, and then Notre Dame kind of just took off from there.
Yeah.
But I just don't know about this North Carolina team that
they got beat by Georgia Tech. They got run out of the stadium by Miami. Mm-hmm. The Jacksonville State game, don't let that 41-24 fool you. Mm-hmm. That was tacked on late. That was a competitive football game for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. I had my pick at Florida State, but I think I'm going to change it to the Tar Heels here.
Did I talk you into it?
The Tar Heels did surprise me. They won by 11 points against Virginia Tech last weekend, and they just find ways to win here. And
I say this too. Virginia Tech made a bit of a comeback. And it was a legitimate comeback. They were in position to potentially win that football game at one point, mm-hmm. especially considering where they were. But North Carolina blew the doors off Virginia Tech early in that game.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll go with the Tar Heels here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also going with the Tar Heels. They beat Boston College with only 4 points, but to Boston College's credit, that's a little weird because Boston College went for a tying 2-point conversion and it got returned. So that was almost an overtime game. But also Boston College turns out not that bad. Yeah. As it turns out. So North Carolina, I think, is a real solid football team. I can't wait. Did they play Miami this year?
North Carolina
and Miami play this year?
Yep, they do. First weekend in December.
I'm looking forward to that game.
Well, you're probably looking forward to the game before that. They take on Notre Dame.
I think they beat Notre Dame.
I mean, they have a really good shot of going undefeated going into Thanksgiving weekend here. Florida State, NC State, Virginia, Duke, Wake Forest. And then they finish off Notre Dame, Miami, and it's funny. I did this last episode, or 2 weeks ago. Western Carolina to wrap up their season.
Yeah, I like the Tar Heels. I think that I want to know who's the second best team in the ACC, and right now for me it's between them and Miami. Notre Dame's also in the conversation. I acknowledge that, but it kind of stinks for them that they have to play Notre Dame and Miami back to back.
Yeah. All right. Next up.
So I went with North Carolina in case I didn't actually say that.
Yep, we both did here. I'm gonna skip the next one here because we'll do the numbers for that one. Next up here we have Boston College taking on Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is a 10.5-point favorite. What do you got here, Jared?
I didn't have a ton of time to think about this one, which is probably a good thing. This was our late edition. We added this in at the last second because of Florida and LSU getting canceled or postponed or whatever the heck it is.
Mm-hmm.
I end up going with Boston College here. If you look at the scores, Boston College has beat Duke, and okay, that's fine. You beat Duke. They beat Texas State in a close game, so that's not the best. But they lost to NC State in again. I said NC State. They lost to UNC in a real close fashion, closer than the score indicates, because I just talked about it. And then they beat Pitt last week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that they win this football game. Virginia Tech is a good team. But if the bar is North Carolina, North Carolina, common opponent. You can
compare them both to North Carolina and Duke. They both played.
I don't compare. Duke's not a litmus test. But I think Virginia Tech and UNC are. And I just think 10's a big number. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Hafley pulls it off or not. But if you look at how well they performed against UNC and how well UNC did against Virginia Tech, I think it's reasonable to expect them to, at the very least, lose by less than 10.5 points.
Yeah, 10.5 is definitely a lot higher than I was anticipating this to be. So I'll take on the Eagles. I'll take the Eagles here. All right, Jared, our last one here we have is Georgia and Alabama. Alabama is a 5.5-point favorite.
I'm curious. I'm gonna look it up right now as I talk. Kyle, you want to talk first?
Sure. And before the whole announcement with Saban and the athletic director, mainly Saban, being tested positive for the COVID virus, I didn't really think too much about picking Bama here to cover. But obviously, if Saban's not going to be the coach on the sidelines there for this weekend, it definitely makes me really want to rethink this here.
The spread, by the way, has moved, is what I was looking up.
Okay.
Now, our picks are locked in.
Yes.
Our software that we're using says 5.5. It's locked in. So we're still picking at 5.5. But depending upon which casino you look at right now,
mm-hmm.
It's either at 4.5 or 3.5. So the Saban news has moved the line by a point or two.
2 points. Yeah, that's tough. This is definitely the toughest one for me in this week's picks here. I'll just still stick with Alabama. We've just seen a lot of inconsistency with Georgia so far this year, but their talent takes over though in the second half. But
they don't have that talent advantage.
You don't have that. Yeah, you don't have that in this game here. But then again, you look at Alabama and the defensive struggle they've had in one game. I imagine that they would probably have fixed that. We'll see here. Though, given a week to try to fix things up here, I still think Alabama still covers this. I'd say they win it by a touchdown there, 5.5 points. Yeah, I'll pick Bama to cover.
I'm still going Bama. I wish we got to vote on the new line, or vote's not the right word, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Mississippi State in a stupid game where they gave up a lot of points. I acknowledge that, but they walloped Texas A&M. They walloped Mizzou. I'm just not worried about it.
You mean Ole Miss, not Mississippi State?
Yes, I always do that. I always mix those two up because they're like the same team in my head. I will. Anyone who's listened to this podcast for a long time, no, I will just mix those two around. Anyway, the point is that Does removing Saban from Alabama affect Alabama? And this goes back to the conversation we were having at the start of the podcast. I tend to lean towards Alabama being such a well-oiled machine that it can survive a game or two without Nick Saban and be just fine.
Well, this would just be like when Urban Meyer wasn't on the sideline too. How well is
Sarkisian's not Ryan Day.
I understand, but
yeah.
It's a similar situation where you don't have your main head coach, your star of your program there on the sidelines. So it's a similar situation there. So
yeah, I kind of don't think it matters, to be honest. Not this week. Depending upon how this goes and how long it lasts.
Yeah.
Then that's potentially an issue. They play Tennessee next week. Could it come into play then if Nick Saban's then away from the team for a week and a half as opposed to a few days?
Yeah.
Nick Saban's not their offensive play caller. If he was, I'd be more concerned. I'd be more concerned about Ryan Day leaving Ohio State than I would be Nick Saban leaving Ohio State, because Ryan Day's involved in the play calling. I think that Nick Saban has done a great job positioning himself as a manager, as a CEO, if you will, of Alabama football, and delegating stuff down to his very highly paid staff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that pays off for him and Georgia this week. And I'm not saying it affects nothing, because it absolutely affects it. But I just have such little faith in Georgia's offense that I'm still going to go with Alabama here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Anything else or any other games that people should keep an eye out for?
No, we scraped the bottom of the barrel on this one.
Agreed. All right, let's get to some Ask SloopCast questions here.
Lightning round.
Try to do these quick. Sun Card asks, if the strength of your offensive line is the interior, how does that shape your offense?
Theoretically, it means you would gear more towards running the ball. That's if you're saying the strength of your offensive line is the interior, then you might then, by the process of elimination, say that your tackles are bad. And that's going to affect you more in your passing game than it is in your running game.
And in those type of situations too is when you would see a lot more tight end and running backs blocking, or dare I say the F word, Jared?
Fullback?
Fullback as well.
Yeah. Tight ends mostly, I would say. But yeah.
All right. Dinger asks, with the surprisingly poor start for some other marquee, in quotes, programs this year, is there any concern we go from smug to 2-2 in a few weeks?
I sure hope not. I don't think so. Over the past few weeks, I think I've talked a lot about culture. Mm-hmm. Is the culture of your program strong? And one thing I have a lot of faith in is that the culture at Ohio State is strong. Yes. And I think we saw that the way the team banded together when we all thought a season wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right.
So
Austin,
I just want to say that I don't think that happens because the culture is strong.
Yeah. All right. Austin Formation asks us, do you think Ohio State goes after Arch Manning?
They'll kick the tires.
Mm-hmm.
He's incredibly talented quarterback. They'll try.
What are the odds we get 2 one-loss teams in the playoff?
High.
Yes.
We've had an incredible amount of chaos already this year.
I had a talk with a coworker this week, and he asked me about the odds of a 2-loss SEC team going in, because he's an SEC guy, so I'm playing ball with him. But and I said, depends on how the other conferences do.
Yeah, basically. But with the high level of I don't know about two SEC teams per se, but I think you could in theory see a situation this year in which you see our first. There hasn't been a 2-loss team in the playoff yet, right?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, that's on the table this year.
Yep.
Just
all right.
Given the chaos we've seen already.
All right, one more question from him. Part 2 of a question I asked last week. Would you rather have the nation's best left tackle or the nation's best defensive end?
Left tackle.
Yes, left tackle. Absolutely.
You're
protecting your quarterback.
You can do things. Yeah, you can do things to compensate with a incredible. I mean, and again, it's sort of like we were talking about with the wide receivers last week. You can compensate for defensive tackle by putting in tight ends and sort of shifting your running back over to that side to sort of take out and assist with an incredibly talented defensive end. It's one of the reasons why you didn't see Chase Young get any sacks, and I think in his last 3 games. But then that does also free up the other defensive linemen to make plays.
Yep.
But ultimately, the name of football in 2020 at any level is keep your quarterback healthy.
Yes. All right.
And that's your left tackle.
Duncan from the Discord. Since fans aren't allowed in, and my wife will give me chores when the game gets lopsided or she gets bored, what are the best classy bars in Columbus to watch the game? Classy being space to breathe and no need to fight your way into the bar for another drink. By extension, when does Jackie O's open?
I know they're renovating the old elevator space, so that won't be for football season. I think what you're looking for instead of a bar is a restaurant. If you're talking about not fighting for drinks, and if you're talking about, I mean, I don't know, because I watch Ohio State games at home, at least partially because of the SloopCast. I do a lot of stuff. I post touchdown cards. I do. I want to tweet about the game. I like to watch Ohio State games at home, so I'm not super experienced in this realm. But I will say this: I'll give a shout out to a place I love. There's a little place in the Graceland Shopping Center, which is not too far away from my house, called Pat and Gracie's. Everyone can go check out Pat and Gracie's. I think they have some outside seating now, which is a new thing for them. And that's one of my. You might, probably not, more likely on a Sunday, catch me at Pat and Gracie's over in the Graceland Shopping Center in Clintonville, in Columbus, in Ohio. That's one of my favorite places to go. But there's tons of great places, bars who will have Ohio State on. They will. If there's a TV, Ohio State will be on it.
Yes.
There's lots of great tap rooms that always have TVs going. You I think would be hard pressed. Just find yourself a nice tap room. They'll probably have some TVs going. That would be my recommendation to you. That and Pat and Gracie's. I like Pat and Gracie's. I'm just giving them some free advertising because the restaurants need it. Restaurants need some love right now, and I would be devastated if anything happened to Pat and Gracie's. So everyone, go to Pat and Gracie's, Graceland Shopping Center, Clintonville, Ohio. Clintonville, Columbus, Ohio. Right off of High Street. North High Street.
Mm-hmm. All right, last question from... Oh, I'm forgetting his name here. You remember what his actual name is? I'm drawing a blank. I apologize here.
Oh, Kyle. Me too. He has a funny thing in the Discord. Is it Cody? Corey? Shoot. I am so sorry.
Here, let me ask the question while you're looking it up real quick. With the season being 10 days away,
he's one of our. I just want to say he's one of our newer guys. So this isn't us being totally shitty. Cooper. Sorry about that, Cooper. We're very sorry. And once again, for the record, he's one of our newest patrons. So we're not being totally shitty right now.
Yep. Cooper asks, with the season being 10 days away, what are your guys' outlook on the season actually going going through and where Ohio State will finish. COVID cases jumping up around schools and possible fake Bama.
And I think he's just saying in a possible fake Bama.
Yeah.
First off, I don't think Bama's fake. I know they had a really bad defensive game. But I still think Bama is the third best team in the country.
Yeah.
That's I stand very firm on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still think it's Ohio State, Clemson, separate, Bama, big separate.
There's like a quality 10, 15 teams that could potentially get that fourth spot in the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they'll push through.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of money on the line, and I think that everyone went to a lot of lengths to make sure this season happens, and that they'll probably push through. We are better at treating this virus now than we were. It's one of the reasons why I'm talking about Nick Saban in a when will he come back manner as opposed to will he survive it manner. Nick Saban is not young, and that is certainly on the table, but he has a lot of money and he'll get the best medicine and the best care in the world. So, I feel like he'll probably be fine. And we do know more about this virus in October than we did in March. It is far more survivable because our hospitals aren't overcrowded, because we have at least slowed stuff down. And again, he has money. he'll have access to doctors and he'll have access to medicine. So I'm optimistic that Nick Saban will be okay. I certainly hope he's okay. It would probably take something like that, God forbid, to actually jeopardize the season from moving forward. If, God forbid, something happened like that, then I think that could jeopardize the season. I remain optimistic that the season does actually go through. That being said, I was also optimistic that the Big Ten wasn't going to cancel the season right before they canceled the season. So this is constantly changing. All of this is constantly changing, and it could change on a dime again. Like I said, God forbid something happens to Nick Saban or Les Miles, who have both been diagnosed in the past couple weeks. God forbid. I mean, just God forbid. But if that happens, how does the college football world react? And I can't say that I know the answer to that question.
Yeah. All right. And that is all for today, Jared.
All right. That's the end of today's show. I want to encourage everyone to check out the master link, which is down in the doobly-doo, down in the show notes. It has all of our stuff. You can buy some cool 7071 merch, which is our stuff that doesn't scream, this is from a podcast. I know a lot of people don't necessarily want to wear podcast swag. So this is just some cool Ohio-centric designs in our 7071 store. Kyle, on the other hand, is in fact wearing SloopCast merch. That's our crew parody. It is a parody. Legally speaking, it is a parody. That's our crew parody shirt. It says Buckeye SloopCast on a shield that looks roughly familiar. Different colors.
Not the same colors.
Not the same colors.
No.
And you can check out the Patreon thing, and we'll try not to forget your name. I am so sorry, Cooper. Jesus, I am so sorry. But yeah, you get access to doing Sloop picks with us. You get access to the Discord, which is almost always a good time. You can talk to us directly. You can talk to the other people who like the podcast a lot directly. I will sometimes share information in there that I don't share on the podcast. The Mad Canadian sometimes hands out coupon codes that are better than the 20% off code that we are currently sharing publicly. Wink, wink, nod, nod. It might be worth it just to join for some Mad Canadian coupon codes and a little bit of barbecue talk in the Discord channel. All of that and a lot more early access to episodes. I've been getting out those early access stuff pretty early so far this season. I can't promise I'll keep doing that, but so far I think I got the Sunday episode or the Monday episode out real early on Sunday last week. So you get early access to episodes. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We had to pause our live listen-ins because we were using Discord to do our video conference for the podcast recording, and it sucked. Just the audio quality wasn't very good. So we did have to go back to Zoom, and we're still figuring out a way to get the live listen-ins for our podcast, our Patreon people. But we do plan on reinstating that soon, so you might be able to do some live listen-ins, which could lead to live chat-ins and stuff like that. So Patreon, a lot of fun, and we want to start doing more video stuff. We might want to try and do 2 episodes a week year-round. There's a lot of stuff that we want to do, but we kind of need the financial resources to do it. So if you want more from us, if you want more video content, and if you want more frequent stuff and maybe bonus video content that isn't the podcast, maybe some little tiny mini-sodes or stuff like that, that's stuff that we want to do, but we kind of just need the financial resources for. So you can get access to all the stuff I just mentioned for only $3 a month at our Patreon store. That's all of that I feel like doing. Kyle, what do you have in Kyle's Corner?
Black Stripes. Got Black Stripes here. Had a third one right before we started recording here, so added the third one to the list. So we got 3 for today's episode. Wide receiver, third time we're mentioning him, Mookie Cooper.
Yeah, that's our third mention of Mookie Cooper, and that's now all 4 of the freshman wide receivers getting their black stripe removed.
Yep. Linebacker Mitchell Melton and center Luke Whippler.
There you
Luke
go.
Whippler, a fan favorite for many Buckeye media members.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've seen a lot of love for Luke. Seen a lot of love.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm. All right, and that's it. That's it. I don't want to talk about the crew because they're not looking good, so we're just gonna.
That's happening as we're talking. I might be checking it. I might be checking it right now. That might be a thing I'm doing right this second.
Mm-hmm.
I might be checking. No.
Just end the show. Just end the show.
Should I not?
Just end the show.
Should I not?
Just end the show.
Okay. Tonight's ending music will be Forest and the Evergreens. They're a fun band. I'm just gonna say they're a fun band. You're about to listen to it. You don't need me to sell you on it. I'm just gonna say they're a lot of fun. If you ever get a chance to see them live, once live music becomes a thing again, which I hope is soon, then yeah, be sure to check out Forest and the Evergreens. So make sure to check the show notes. You can get a link to their Bandcamp page and the information on whichever song I end up picking. So you can find all that down there. Again, you can find the master link down there. And with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Forest and the Evergreens. YouTube. What's up, YouTube?
I am ready to watch some Buckeye football.
Almost, man. We're almost there. We're in the single digits. I mean,
almost taste it.
There's a lot of people who listen to this episode on Saturday morning, despite the fact that it comes out on Friday. We get a lot of downloads Saturday morning. So for those people, of course, all the podcast numbers I'm talking about right now are podcast numbers and not YouTube numbers. So I have no idea. Only YouTube we're talking right now. It's only 7 days for those people. It's only 7 days. 6 days to Big Ten football. You know, just need a little bit of Wisconsin on your tongue just to tide you over for Ohio State. We're almost there. We're almost there. All right, let's rejoin our audio-only listeners. Once again, that was Forest in the Evergreens doing tonight's ending music. And, of course, today's podcast was brought to you, as it has been for over a year now, the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. Don't let that name fool you, Kyle. The man's an Ohioan at heart. He lives in Cary, Ohio. That is where his spice organization is run. That is, of course, where the Buckeye bus is parked when it's not out serving food. Now, of course, sometimes it's also serving food in Cary, Ohio, as it will be this Friday, which is the day that most of you listen to this episode, from 11 to 3 at the Marathon gas station in Cary, Ohio. If you aren't listening to this on Friday and you missed that opportunity, or maybe you can't get to Cary, Ohio, well, if you're closer to Upper Sandusky, he will be at the Wyandotte County Historical Museum from noon to 4 on Sunday. So you could get there right at noon, get some rad barbecue. Don't pull on his beard. I was corrected. I got some angry emails. Do not pull on his beard. Pull on his beard. Guys, pull on his beard. Did I say the whole... Yeah, Get there right at noon, get yourself some rad barbecue, and be home in time for some NFL. Again, that is Upper Sandusky, the Wyandotte County Historical Museum on Sunday from noon to 4. Now, if you can't make it to any of those things, you can make some amazing barbecue at home using the very same spices that he uses on the barbecue bus at the madcanadianbbq.com. Kyle, mega read, let's go. Brits Blend, Coffee and Q, the Sonoran Heat, the Cajun, the Smoke, the Savory, the Two-Border, the S&P Bud, the Carry Steak, the Discord, the Ope, the Four Horsemen, the Old Fashioned, and the Mad Hatter. I didn't get that in one breath. I'll get it next week.
Do better next week.
I'll do better next week. You can get 20% off your spice order using the promo code 1ONE year 20 at checkout. Get 20% off your entire order. If you, for some reason you're listening to this and it's no longer October, you can still use SloopCast 10 at checkout and get 10% off your entire order. But the 1 year 20 expires on Halloween, or at like 11:59 and 59 seconds on Halloween. So hurry up. It's chili season. Get some of that Brits Blend. Put that in your chili. You'll thank me later. Or don't thank me. Thank the Mad Canadian because he has your butt covered.